So we're going to talk about navigating through your cash flow. And so a little bit about me. Let me get the screen to move. Hold on one second. Oh, there we go. I am Crystal Mitchell. As Brian said, I'm a business coach and entrepreneur, and I've been working in the accounting and bookkeeping field for majority of my business, which is about 30 years. And so I've seen pretty much from every business type and industry, how business owners navigate through their cash flow and just making their businesses work every single day. And some people are very good at cash flow, and some people are very poor at it. I like to use the analogy that my mom, when she was raising us, and I had three brothers, and it was three of us. My mom was amazing at cash flow. So, what little money she had coming in, she was able to make it appear to us, her kids, that she was super wealthy because she got us whatever we needed. We ate well, we dressed okay. I mean, we weren't out in the street, we had a roof over our head. And I used to tease her and tell her she had the capability of squeezing the complete life out of a dime. Uh, and so, you, as a business owner, if you didn't learn that little lesson from your parents, then that's pretty much what one needs, especially during the time when your cash is not flowing in a way that you need it when you need it. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. So tell me, you guys, how have you been dealing with your cash flow during this pandemic? You can put it in the chat room because last year, 2020, completely changed how all of us have done business over the past. And one of the things that it did for sure was it let us know that if we had weaknesses and deficiencies in our business strategy, in our business, it became very noticeable. In fact, it was shouting and screaming at us during 2020. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is how are we to proceed? How are we to take the lessons that we learned over 2020 and use those lessons to make sure that we are going to thrive, not survive, thrive post pandemic. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Right now, Steve said I'm strategizing the best ways to set myself up for cash flow. Okay. And so tonight we're going to talk about what does that actually mean. Myself and Chase and anyone else that's in the business and financial space, we believe that more Black entrepreneurs can succeed by providing you guys with valuable information, reliable advice, useful tools and resources. That was one of the things that I saw during the pandemic. All of a sudden, there was just tons of resources available to us. So I hope you guys took advantage of that. So this presentation here is partnering. Chase is partnering with other organizations in Los Angeles Urban League, the National Urban League, to help lead Black business organizations into the future by bringing knowledge and resources so we can make sure that we're leaping forward and that we're looking to be able to thrive past where we are. If it had not have been for the PPP, for those that actually received the PPP, there have been a lot of businesses that had to close their doors because they didn't understand what was really driving their businesses, and what that was their cash flow. So we're going to talk about those strategies tonight, Stephen. Anyone else discovered some ways to manage their cash flow during the last year during the pandemic? You can put it in the chat. So cash flow is the fuel, is the oxygen, is the blood that really keeps your business moving and moving forward. You need cash available to pay your suppliers, your employer, your employees, yourself, pay your mortgage or your rental for your space. You need to pay taxes, and you need to be able to have the ability to reinvest monies back into your business so that you continue that flow of cash going through. So it's really critical in order to have this. There are some businesses. I have a church that I've been doing business with and have been my clients for years. And I always tease the pastor because pretty much all his revenue comes from the tithes that they collect on Sunday. Found ways to pivot my business to bring in more money. Excellent, Vanessa. So I always tell him, I said, he has managed he's been my client for about 8 years. And when I go in and do his books monthly or quarterly, I actually every 2 months. It's just amazing. He understands exactly how his money comes in, and he understands how to flow the expenses going out in a manner that in the 7, 8 years he's been my client, not once have they bounced a check, not once have the account been in the negative, and not once have he not been able to pay his bills. So really, really important understanding that. And it's really not too different from how you and how we as business owners or even as individuals float our money. So if you were not a business owner and when you were working for someone, you knew you had so much money coming in every month, and hopefully you had budgets and you were able to budget your money. Now, a lot of times we do have more month than we have money, and if that happens, then that's where it becomes you have to become very strategic on how to float your money through. So, come on. All righty, what's happening here? Hold on. Okay, there we go. So tonight, we're going to do a little survey before we move forward. How confident are you that you have enough cash to bridge a 1 month closure of your business? So let's think back to when at the beginning, March of 2020. So everyone, you were doing business from January to March, just flowing like you normally would have been doing, like you did the year before. So in March or in April, how many of you were comfortable that, let's say at that time, I think we thought we were going to be there until I thought, myself personally, I thought maybe a closure up into July. How comfortable were you at that time that your business could survive for that time frame? We're not talking about the full 18 months. We're talking about that first when we first found out that we could survive to July. So let me know using the number system there. If you were very worried, put a 1. If you were a little concerned, do a 2. If you were not sure, if you were optimistic, or if you were really confident. So I would like to see everyone respond. Okay. Okay. Well, there's 19 of you guys, so that was not 19. So, so some of you were not sure. I saw one optimistic individual. I saw some 1s and 2s who were very concerned, and so a lot of us were very, very concerned just because we really probably hadn't been doing our businesses the way we should have been. And I know from accounting and bookkeeping, it has been a principal part of my business practice. And I know I have been fussing at clients and talking to them about managing their books and setting up accounting systems. And during that time, I got a lot of phone calls for those individuals that I had been hounding for years. So this is what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about what that future looks like and why it's so important that you need to have some sort of system in place that is helping you manage your cash flow. So we're going to talk about the basics of cash flow. We're going to talk about maximizing cash coming in. We're going to talk about minimizing the cash going out. And we're going to talk about making the cash work for you. You're in business to make money. And that money should be flowing in on a regular basis. And you should really understand exactly how it does flow in. So success depends on making sure that the cash is there when you absolutely need it. So and this is not just, small businesses. Every profitable business can fail if they spend money at the wrong time, tie up too much cash in their inventory, or don't collect their revenues in a timely manner. And the only way you can really know this is by actually tracking it on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and an annual basis. And the best way to do that is with some sort of accounting software so that you can see it as it comes in, you can see it as it's going out. So let's talk about in part one, the cash flow basis. So we know that if we look at where you are today and how monies are supposed to come in, the concepts are that your money is coming in from the invoicing that you're doing for the services that you're providing or the products that you're selling. It is based upon if you are in a position where you're doing cash basis. So then at that point, it's based upon how many customers are actually walking into your door. But it goes beyond just that. It goes to the place that you need to make sure that you can cover your expenses in less than 15 days. So that's really 2 weeks. And if you have employees, what's driving your cash is that every 10 days or every week, if it's weekly, by Wednesday, you got to have enough cash in order to pay your employees. And if you're doing your payroll biweekly, then you have to make sure that there's enough money that's going to be there for you. So how do we do that, right? So one of the things that we do is we create our cash flow, our invoicing system, our selling system to time it with the amount of money and the cash outflows that are going out of your business. So it's not just a matter of invoicing your clients at the first of the let's say everyone did their invoicing on January on the first of each month. But then you have terms, your clients have terms of 30 days. So you're not going to get that money to the next month around the first. And if that's the case, what about all of the expenditures that are happening in between that time frame, right? So you want to make sure that you're really gauging the time frame, making sure that there's enough cash in order to do what you need to do. So 50% of small businesses are operating with less than 15 cash buffer days in their coffers, in their bank accounts, in their savings account, wherever they're putting their money. And if you're not very confident, so a number of you were not, you were ones about your cash position, you're not alone. There are large businesses and large corporations that if they're not running their business very efficiently, they have that problem. Or if they lose a client, or if any sort of crisis comes along, then there's a problem. So a cash buffer is the cash on hand that's available to cover expenses without any revenue, meaning that you've projected out at the beginning of the year or the end of the previous year how much money you're going to need. You look back at your financial statements and you've said, wow, I know I need X amount of I need X amount of dollars for the entire month in order to make sure that I cover all of my expenses. So, in a study that was conducted between 2013 and 2017, half of the businesses had enough money to literally make it through 2 weeks of business. So, let's think about that. So, again, if you were operating with enough cash to last you 2 weeks, then for those of you that indicated that you were very concerned in that survey, it's because you knew you didn't have enough cash to go beyond and not be able to touch or reach out or be able to pivot your business. And at that time, pivoting wasn't even a word in our vocabulary, not in the aspect of how we're using it now. And so a lot of you were very, very concerned. So just think about it. If every business has the potential for unexpected crises, unexpected expenses, closures, loss of a big client, or in the case of last year, a pandemic, which really shut all of us down. None of us could even have possibly have imagined that happening in our lifetime because we'd never seen that in our lifetime. So now from here and moving forward, we have to make sure that we can shelter from the storm. So the cash buffering days gives you that confidence to know that you won't be inundated with overdue bills. So meaning you've kept track of what those bills look like. You understand when the due dates of all your bills are available and that you have the cash there. So what would you do if suddenly you had no cash coming in? Do you have a contingency plan? So I see a couple of people that were fours. I saw nobody was five or sixes. So the person that had that was optimistic, did you have a contingency plan? And did anyone have a contingency plan? You just didn't activate it. So let's put that in the chat for me. Yes, Ashley had a contingency plan. Anyone else? No. Okay. So we saw that once COVID hit or the pandemic hit, there was a lot of confusion. James had one, didn't have one, Vanessa. There was a lot of confusion. We weren't even sure if money was coming. And then, of course, that first round of PPP, a lot of our small business owners didn't get that money. And so you pretty much you had to depend on some other resources, a contingency screen. Okay. Some of you probably had to reach into your savings plans. If any of you, this was your second act, some of you actually probably went into your retirement monies. You probably pulled money from your household budgets. You were probably pulling money from every resource that you could actually possibly think about. And some of you just sat still and didn't do anything, right? So that buffer, if that buffer is in place, it will give you enough time to collect your thoughts, strategize, and then tackle the challenge head on. Now, for me, I was in the process of already contingency concentration was on my real estate investments. Okay, thank you. I was already in the place of transitioning from doing live workshops and classes and teaching to more online anyway. I had already put that plate, that was my contingency plan, and not because of a pandemic, because I didn't have a crystal ball any more than you guys did. I just knew that I could reach more people if I was doing business online. So I was already starting to communicate and meet with my clients online, getting them comfortable, getting me comfortable. My accounting clients, I had already moved them from a desktop type of accounting system to an online accounting system so that I could actually do their accounting without having to actually see them. So I was already doing that. So my business didn't really take it wasn't really affected by too much by the pandemic, because I was already looking at pivoting and doing different things, and I had also added in other revenue streams. So this is one of the things you guys want to look at for the future. All of your revenue cannot be coming from one source. You have to create other revenue streams so that if and when, and it's not an if, when the next crisis, pandemic, whatever it is there, if that one revenue stream dries up, then you have other revenue streams coming in. So let's talk about the types of cash flows and outflows that um, in your business, right? So the first one, there's three types, and is the cash coming in, and the outflow is your cash going out. They're going to three functions in your business. Is the operating function, which is anything to it has anything to do with operating your business, and that's how the money is collected and spent on your main activities. So if you sell a product, then that's going to be your cash inflow. If you sell a service, that's going to be your cash inflow. So on the outflow side is the money that you're spending to keep your lights on, market your product, pay your employees, basically whatever it takes you to run your business. Then the other area is the investing side. This is the cash that is collected and spent on long-term investments. So this is money that you're reinvesting back into your business or into other vehicles so that you can continue to generate other revenue coming into your business. So a inflow in this case would be if you're renting out some of your space to another business, so that way you have cash flow to come in to offset the rent or offset the mortgage, and it's not completely reliant on your revenues coming in. And then the investment outflow is probably more common. It's money that you spend to purchase the building if you own your own building, or it's the money that you're using to purchase new equipment that is obviously enabling and allowing you to do your business. And then the other area for cash inflows and outflows is the financing piece. So the financial piece is cash that is collected and spent on your loans, the dividends, or the equity. So if you sell a ownership stake in your business as a way to bring in more cash for your business, that would create an inflow. So let's look at companies that are publicly traded, so you guys understand that. If I'm selling stock in my company, a lot of times that is how they raise money in order to reinvest back into their business, is to sell ownership or stock shares in the business, and then people are buying and using that cash, bringing in an inflow of cash to your business. An outflow would be any loan payments that you've had to that you have to pay out in for any financing loans that you actually took. So you still have to pay the loans each month. So that's your outflow. Um, anyone have any questions on that? That's pretty simple, right? It's the operating expenses that you're using in order to to operate your business, and then investing monies into your business. And that's another way of generating inflows. And then, of course, there's outflows if there's any expenses related to that. And then financing if your business needed cash flow and you had to acquire a loan. Some of you did. How many of you actually received any of the PPP monies and the idle monies or any grant monies or anything during this time frame? Can you throw that in the chat for us? Someone had their hand up? Okay. That's 2. Okay. All right. Ashley didn't. Was there complications, Ashley, or you just chose not to apply? Stephen, no. Gratefully, my business didn't know where to start. Okay. Okay. That's important to know. Okay. So, Chase has a tool that will help you monitor. First, let me ask this question before I introduce and talk to you guys about the cash flow analysis. How many are actually using? You got all of them, time. How many of you actually have an accounting system set up? Whether that's QuickBooks, that's Gusto, that's FreshBooks, that's okay. Tyrone has QuickBooks. Is it up to date and current, Tyrone? You do the QuickBooks, okay. All righty. Okay, Tyrone. No, Ashley's using an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, anyone else? And this is important, my math skills, okay. Ashley laughs. Excel, okay. So have you guys noticed that when you go to run a report, that Excel can't run you in a report? Have you just noticed that just off the bat, just off, Yes. So for those of you, okay, that are using Excel, but I'm going to highly encourage you. Yes, it's a bummer. Definitely look for something else. I am going to highly encourage you working to afford that software. Okay, Ashley, to use some sort of software accounting system. Very, very important. And Ashley, there is actually a free one out there, and you, as of next week, you could actually be up and running, and it wouldn't cost you a dime. So we'll talk about that shortly. So Chase has a tool for those of you that are using the spreadsheet method of tracking your accounting. They have a tool that is, it's a handy tool, and it helps you visualize a year of inflows and outflows. You can plug in your numbers and then run scenarios based upon how your business might perform in the coming years. So what you want to do is, let me see if I can. There is actually a workbook, and we're gonna, when we take our little break, I will put the workbook in the chat room, and then it also will have this information on their Chase's business cash flow tool. So that tool, which is available on Chase's website at chase.com/cash flow analysis, that you can actually put in your cash flow, your inflows, which is the monies that you're selling your product or your services. You can project that over for a year, and then you can do the same thing. You can put in your expenses and project those out for a year, and then it will give you an idea of how you're using money, and how the money is flowing in, and if it's flowing in a timely manner or flowing in after the fact. So it's really, really important to do that. So you can do that with this handy tool, but you can even do that better with an accounting system. So we want to make sure everyone's there. So as you can see from the screen, it will let you do an analysis of your cash flow from the previous year and be able to look at it, and it will give you when the monies are deposited, and then it will show all of those 3 areas: the operating, the investment, and the financing, and it will help you be able to track how the money is coming in. So remember, that's the lifeblood. And then you can generate a report from that tool, which is what you cannot get when you're doing your writing down. No, this tool does not require you to be a Chase business account, a business client. All you need to do is be able to um, put in the search bar chase.com cash flow analysis. And when we take a break, I'll put the link in for the workbook, and it's all listed in the workbook, and then you can use that. So until you get your accounting system. But I'm an advocate about having an accounting system. But it will generate you this report with some charts and some graphs and give you an idea of how you're spending your money, where the money is in conjunction with how the money is coming in. These tools are really, really helpful. It's like dissecting your business. Your business is more like it truly is a science to running a successful business, but you have to know all the parts, making sure all the parts are running efficiently together. So the analysis tool, there are drop down menus that allow you to add the different types of inflow within the operating, investing, and financing categories. It allows you to describe the inflow in your words. So when you go back, you'll know what it is that you were referring to. You can set the frequency of how often the money comes in for your month, and for monthly payments, the system will automatically calculate across the entire year. When the money is deposited, it allows you to note when the money is deposited, when the cash is in your hands, and when the cash is available to you. And once all the information is in, you click the add, and it will generate the report. So you may want to use that. Now, this same process is available to you in an accounting system. For those of you that have QuickBooks, you probably have you've seen that as a feature on QuickBooks. You might probably just didn't know how to use it, but that's what you do. And that's the whole idea for an accounting software, is that at the end of the day, you're tracking all of your expenses, but at the same time, you want to use it as a tool. And that tool is basically that you making sure that you understand how the money is flowing in and how the money is flowing out. And when it comes in, if you need to infuse more cash, if you have enough money to extract to put in a savings for those rainy days, that's what that's for. And it's really, really important for business owners to be able to track it, not just money coming in and you just throw it in the bank account, and when a bill comes up, you just pay it. At some point, you run out of money and you're like, okay, just have to hold that bill over to the side. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is really be intentional about how we're actually managing the funds that are going into our business. So let's talk about part two, is how are you and how can we maximize the cash coming in? So there are 4 ways to bring cash into your business. And so we're going to talk about those 4 ways of how we do that. So the first one is knowing your competition. And you might ask, why is that necessary for me to know my competitors? Who are my competitors, and why do I need to know that? Now, if you did your business plan in the very beginning of launching your business, you actually, as an exercise, because I would imagine those of you that had a business plan, how many of you actually have gone back to look at that business plan, and especially for last year? Did anyone look at their business plan during the pandemic and recognize any potential risk and how they were supposed to run their business in the event that they encountered a risk? And can you please put that in the chat room? And I guess the first question is, do you have a business plan? Yes. So Dr. Jessica, did you go and look at it during that time frame? Rashida, no. Because in that plan, I don't have a business plan, okay? So in your business plan, you actually, yes, that was the time I used to do, and there was a time, okay, it's under construction for Stephen. Yes, your SWOT analysis would have worked as well. How many of you did your SWOT analysis, which is identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats? So with that, you would have had some sort of contingency plan, not for a pandemic, but you would have had some sort of contingency plan on how you would run your business in the event you reached this obstacle and it was stopping you from making money for your business. So the competition is one of those areas that we pay very close attention to in our business plan. And the reason we do is because we want to know how people that are doing the exact same things that we're doing, how their businesses is moving forward, and how who the customers are that are coming in, if they are using other technology and tools that's giving them an advantage over our business, and also are we using some sort of tools or technology that is giving us an advantage over them. So there are two types of competitors: your direct inline competitor, meaning we're doing the exact same thing, we're probably selling to the exact same customers. Even our products are priced very similar. So it's just a matter of, do they like me or do they like them? And so that's one competitor. The other competitor is that individual that's indirectly maybe selling the same product, but they also have another line in. So those are your indirect competitors. And it's really important to understand how they're doing business. So one of the ways to maximize the your competition, or even understand your cash coming in, is to make sure, okay, that you understand what that competitor is doing. So how has your competitive landscape changed in the past year? You guys can pop that in the chat. So last year we all had to do a pivot. We no longer were doing business in person, live and in color. We now were having to do our business as we're doing right now online, in a Zoom, a digital, some sort of transformation took place. We obviously switched on from live selling to online selling. Meetings were now no longer live, they were also digital. So digital transformation was experienced by all of us in order to get the word done, in order to make sure that you were staying in front of your clients. So, and if you didn't adopt that, then that became a problem. So customers, after probably about the fourth or fifth month of the pandemic, they were expecting more digital options for them to buy. So to interact with you, for scheduling your services, for making payments, this had to become simpler for them, in order for them to reach you and for you to reach them. So let's see, who is it that had I had to mitigate to remote operations and update all my written documents into an electronic file, and I'm still in the process of adopting electronic access to files and learning to navigate through the online experience. Yes, we had no choice, but in order to do that. You also had to bring in or identify new digital tools that would help you run your business. You had to know how competitive it was out there, and so you would have an edge. So, which meant that you had to start or should have been tracking your competitor online to see what they were doing. You had to utilize your social media, not just to post what you ate yesterday. Now you had to look at your social media and see what your competitor and how they were marketing and advertising their business, because now they got a bigger marketplace. So if you had not done the same thing, then you were going to be lagging behind, and you probably would have noticed that because your revenue would have started lagging behind. So you to know, you had to really stop and take a closer look at your competitors and finding the right mixture of strategies and tools to help you succeed. So if you guys haven't done that, it's not too late. So I think Tyrone mentioned up in the chat space there. He said the SWOT, the SWOT. So I would highly recommend that you guys do the same thing. What are your strengths? What are you good at? What's your secret sauce, your sizzle sauce that makes you different from your competitor? And if you have that and you haven't been emphasizing that, then you need to really start to utilize that, using whatever tools that you have adopted or can adopt. Do some research to find out some new tools for you to use in order to make sure that your clients, especially your clients that you are, or customers that you've had before the pandemic, to make sure that they know that you're still out here and you're still doing business. If they haven't heard from you in 18 months, they pretty much have gone somewhere else to find what they were looking for, because customers want their pains or their problems satisfied by somebody. So if you're not there for them, then they're just going to go to your competitor. So that's why it's important. So if you're able to really capitalize on what your strengths are, also identifying what your weaknesses are and finding a way to shore that up through either partnering with someone or finding a tool that will satisfy, to give you to strengthen that area to make it a strength. And then also being able to identify whatever your opportunities are. And again, the threats are always going to be there. And I don't know, care if you just started your business yesterday or you've been in business for the last 10, 15 years, there is some sort of threat always lurking on the horizon. And your job as a business owner is to make sure that you address and know upfront what that threat is going to be, and then have a plan or strategic plan to address it before it actually gets to you. Okay. Any questions? So one of the things that I found when I made this adjustment to um, my online, I was a lot more accessible to a lot more people. That was the goal, right? So now it was becoming a little bit more overwhelming for me to be able to keep, yes, for me to be able to keep track of all the people that was coming to me. I was now doing workshops and seminars for numerous of organizations, including myself. As Brian said earlier, I operate or launch. I'm a co-host on 2 talk shows, which was also creating podcasts, which was also generating more business. So one of the things I had to do was go out and get and find a virtual receptionist, so that that when people call me, so that I can make sure everyone's taken care of, I now have a number. You call that number and it has a choice of options. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, you can press 5. If you want a copy of my latest show, you can press 3, which helped me do my business better and easier. Yes, I can share that with you. It helped make it easier for me. In fact, if you go to my, if you call me at 213-458-5952, there's an option there for you to get the the virtual assistant program that I'm using. Excellent. It has really helped change some stuff and help me stay on top of all of the different resources, and also it's helping me make money. So just to know sometimes we have to recognize what our weaknesses are and then find a solution. So for me, that was a tool. That's a digital tool that I found that is making my life easier. So in the workbook that I'm going to provide for you guys shortly, there is a competitive analysis exercise that you can do. It's in the workbook, page 12, and I will put the link in for the workbook very shortly. And this will help you identify who your competitors are. So let me ask this question. Do you guys know who your direct competitors are? Okay. And have you stayed on top of them throughout this pandemic? Are they doing something different than what you have done, or did they do a different pivot during the pandemic? Yes, yes, no. Okay. All righty. So good. That's a good thing, because knowing who your competitors are is really, really important. So Chase has a tool. Chase is full of tools. And someone's like, okay, help me pivot. So Chase's tool is uh, the link is chase.com/competitive analysis. And if you don't have a tool to use, this would be a helpful tool for everyone to use. So again, it's in the workbook. I'll make sure you get the workbook. But in the meantime, chase.com/competitive analysis. And then you can just put that in your search engine bar and it will pop up with this tool. So what this tool will do is, if when you look at it, you'll be able to list your competitors and rate them based upon their value and their price, which is very similar to what you probably did when you did create your business plan. Make sure you fill in the same information for your business as well, because you want to compare their business to your business. And once you enter that information, you'll see a grid that will show how your business stacks up with others in terms of price and value. And the insights you gain can help you adjust your prices and increase your value so you can better compete in the marketplace. Because that's what they're saying to you is being able to bring in more revenue. So a lot of us, when we first started our business, and I know this because I've consulted with so many, my virtual assistant cost me $39 a month, and it also is an affiliate program, so you can offset that by referring other friends and business associates to that platform, and now you have another revenue stream coming in. So, and in addition to paying and taking care of I think it's like 3 clients and 3 referrals, and your monthly fee is taken care of. And then at that point, it may be another tool to generate more revenue. So here's the thing. When we first started our business, and I've had this conversation with so many of our clients, is that a lot of times, especially small business owners, we're very concerned about how much money people have. You're welcome. We're concerned more about how much people have in their pocket versus how much money we need. Meaning, you may price your product based upon what you assume your potential customer or client has in their pocket, and not price your product based upon how much it costs you to produce that product. So pricing of your product should be based upon the raw materials that you're using in order to create that product, and the labor that it takes you to produce that product, and then any packaging or whatever you need in order to get it to marketplace. So, and then you need to add your percentage for the profit on top of that. People, if it's a product that a person needs, If your product or your business is solving a pain point or creating a niche for a product that hasn't been there, they will make that decision whether or not they want to spend the money. People spend money on what they want to spend money on. They're not concerned about their pocket. We're concerned about their pocket. So you need to price your product. Long as the value is there, long as you have identified what the value proposition is, then people will buy your product, right? You have to look at Starbucks. Why do we go and spend $5 for a cup of coffee? It's because Starbucks has established a value proposition for their particular product. One of the things that I saw during the pandemic, and I didn't understand this because everybody was at home with their own coffee makers, people were driving and sitting in line in order to buy a cup of coffee like they had been doing at work when they were driving to work. They were already at home with their remote, doing business remotely. They could buy a coffee maker 10 times over for the amount of money that they were paying for Starbucks. And it doesn't matter where I went in the city, there were long lines to get to Starbucks. Did you guys see those same long lines that I saw? So you want to look back at your prices to make sure your prices are inclusive of inclusive of what it takes you to produce that product. And when we talk about service, we want to do the same thing. If you were providing this service on 120, if you're absolutely right, if you are providing this service for someone else that was paying for your services, then they will have you have set a dollar price in order for you to provide that. So if you're doing that in your business, then you want to make sure that it's taking in consideration the expertise that you have, your strengths, right? And make sure the value is there and that you are producing this service better than anyone else because you're the one doing it. I'm not the only business coach and consultant in the city of Los Angeles, and especially not the only one that is providing products and services, services for the small minority or Black-owned business. There's tons of us. But there's nobody but me or like me to do it the way I do it. And so based upon that, people come because it's me, right? So people are going to come to your business because it's you. We all have our own style, not knocking anybody's style, is we all have our own way of doing things and providing value to our customers. So make sure you understand that. So go back and look at your price list and make sure it's not based upon your customer's pocketbook. And if it is based upon that particular customer, maybe it's time to look at a different customer. So that's going to take us here to the segment. Know your customer so that you can be more strategic to build that loyalty and expand your base, right? So maybe it's time to re-look at our customers. Maybe what the products and the services that we're offering now, maybe we need to step it up a little bit. Maybe not to eliminate them and push them out, but maybe we need to add on a different clientele, right? So you want to know your client in a way that's actionable. You need to group them into categories that can help you develop an outreach strategy in order to speak to them. So if you started out with one client and your business has evolved and grown, and maybe you've added some new services, and maybe there are some other customers out there that can benefit from your service, then you want to make sure that you are doing an outreach to bring in a different clientele. So one of the things, again, another worksheet that's going to be in the workbook that I will provide for you. Who are your customers? So let's take a look at and do an analysis. You're going to walk through an exercise so that you'll better understand your customers. Who are they? Why do they buy from you? right? What are they looking for? Has their needs changed from when you first they first came to your business and purchased a product? Have they grown? Have you grown with them? Are there other needs? Do you know what their pain points are now? Have you done surveys to ask them? Have you gotten feedback from them? Right? Because they will tell you what they need, right? So when you want to find out, why are they shopping with you, right? They're knowing who your best client is. Let's go back a little bit. So there are four types of customers. One is your best customer, and this is a person who's been spending a lot of money with you. Um, they're the ones that have created loyalty to you. Um, Hopefully, they're also that individual that have become ambassadors for you. They're out referring you over to other customers. You want your customers that have experienced you to be able to be ambassadors for you. So your best customer is you want to be able to identify, again, like we did when we first started our businesses. You want to know who they are, what type of people are they, what are their ages. So it's really, we're going back to determine the demographics of your particular customer. What's their age, their gender, the level of wealth, do they have kids, do they have pets? You're basically building a persona of the people who would need and want to your product or your service. You want to take a minute and write that down. And has that changed from, especially in the last year, has your customer changed? So stop and think about that. When we're selling, we usually are so into making the sale, and in an overall bigger picture, that we don't bring it back down to the individual people that we need to reach. And the reason why you need to do that is to understand how you need to reach them, how you need to speak to them, what is the language, what are their pain points, what are the problems that they have, and do you have the solution for that problem for them? So now, one of the things I talk to when I'm coaching my clients is, if I know that I want to, every year you say, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year, then we have to have a strategic plan on how to make that happen. So you have to set some sales goals, and so you usually have to work backwards. So how many customers? If you want to make $100,000, you have to know how many customers will I need at the price point that I'm selling my product, and I will need to sell that same number every month in order to reach that 100,000. I also need to understand is what of my peak seasons? When do I do more business throughout the year than I do throughout the entire year? And what are my low ebbs? What are the low periods in that process for me? So being able to understand, if you have a product that's a seasonal product, then do you have if you're doing a seasonal holiday product, or your product, I'm in the account, when I do book accounting and bookkeeping, my season for that is from December to March. I usually shut down in March. So that's when I get the bulk of my people. Now, am I going to be able to still do that with them from April once they do their taxes past April? Pretty much not, unless they're already customers that they've already bought into the fact that doing their bookkeeping every month is essential to making sure they understand how their business runs. or these are the individuals that need me just to help them get their taxes done at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year. So you have to know who, what, and where, and why these people are. And so setting your price goals, your sell goals in order to generate more revenue is essential in being able to maximize more cash coming in. So with that, what we're going to do, guys, is take a few moments, and this way I can get you the workbook. We're going to take a break for a minute. But while you're doing this, can you jot down the characteristics? And if you guys have established a sale goal and how, what is your outreach strategies? And then I'll be able to get the information that you need in order to use the workbook. Are we in agreement there? So take a few minutes so that I can get the workbook for you. All righty, because that's a lot of stuff that we just covered right there. All right, I'm gonna stop the share just a minute. You guys jot that down, and then I'll get the information for you. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, so that's the workbook. So you guys jot it down. Can you put it in the chat room? What are your clients? What are the characteristics of your clientele? Yeah, that's actually the workbook, and you can also get it here, chase.com. And there were several of them. There was the cash flow analysis. And then there was the one, the competitive analysis. And when you go to their website, I'm sure you'll be able to find all that you need to find in order to do the work, to use the workbooks in order to maximize who is your clientele. Okay. But before we do that, I need to know if you guys know who your customers are, and has your customers changed in the last year? Let's throw that in the chat. Rashida, how did your clients change? Did you pivot? Our production, and they have significantly changed in the last year. Okay. Did you find a replacement, or are you still looking for replacement, Shannon? Business owners with storefronts. Okay. Okay, cool. So, Stephen, business owners with storefronts, what's your plan? Been able to add new production? So this tool can be very helpful to you because you're going to really have to identify new ways to reach those individuals. Okay. And that's fine. I mean, if we were doing, everybody's business should be moving to another place, right? Even, I mean, if I was doing that, I am not doing the same business that I was doing when I first started my business 30 years ago. I'm in version probably 4.5 right now. My customers are young adults, 24 to 45, arranged now for med spa. For the substance abuse program, more businesses are sending referrals, visiting the locations, and securing contracts. Okay. Have these businesses moved to a digital platform, and can you service them there? And that's really where we are. We're really sitting and looking at our business, and we're looking at it through different eyes now. We're no longer looking at it the way it used to be. We have to look at it the way it is right now, with 100% digital during the pandemic. Now, let me ask this, Shannon, are you going to stay digital, or are you going to create some sort of hybrid? Okay, cool. Right, exactly. Um, and so that's how we need to be looking at things. Even as a small business owner, we have to be able to say, hey, let's try something different. And the reason we want to try something different is because we want to make sure that we can attract new customers as well as our existing customers. So again, our best customer is the one that was there all the time. They've been supportive of us. Then our but now we should be looking at to add on new customers, always looking back at our customers to bring in a new idea, new money. So that's one of the things we want to do, is to be able to maximize our cash. The other way is, if we're invoicing our customers, maybe once we look and analyze how our money is flowing in and how our money is flowing out, maybe this may be a good time as well, is to look at your receivables. If you're invoicing your customers, maybe you need to change the terms, maybe stagger the terms, right? When I first started my business, I had my individual customers that I was servicing, and then I had customers that I had an ongoing contract, a year contract or 2-year contract. So I knew I had that revenue coming in every single month, and then I could really, and I had 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those type of customers. So that made sure that all of my expenditures were being taken care of. And then the new customers I were bringing in, I could use that to reinvest back into my business. So it's really looking at how you do it. And then every year I go back and looking at my financials, and I look back and say, well, maybe I can change some terms. Maybe my client and I need to sit down and talk about changing the terms so that my revenue, when they're paying me, is coming in when I need it, and not doing all the revenue coming in at one time of the month, when my bills and my expenses are not coming in one time a month. They're staggered throughout the month. So I need to make sure that my revenue is staggered throughout the month. So look at improving your receivable process and determining whether or not you have to change your payment policy, and make sure that you're invoicing. And that's, again, another reason to have an accounting system, so that you can make sure that you're invoicing in a timely manner, because that's really important. If you put off your invoicing and you're behind in your invoicing, which means now you're going to be behind in making sure I can't need people to use my product to be profitable. Okay, I'm not quite sure about that statement. Stephen, can you clarify that? So you want to make sure that you're revisiting how your client is. So your best client, they may not come in often, but when they do, they usually spend a lot, right? So now the next client you're looking at is your sustainable client, right? They may not spend a lot, but when they do come in, they shop frequently and they're loyal to you. And thank you so much, Krista. This has been incredibly helpful. I really appreciate it. I look forward to when I can meet with you. You're welcome. I'm in the ATM. Okay. So it's a pleasure to meet you as well, Shannon. So your sustainable cousin, what type of, do you have that type of client? They don't spend often, but when they do, they don't come in often, but when they do, they spend, they shop frequently, and they're loyal to you. And then your next one is your lookalike client. Who is this person that looks like a current client but shops elsewhere for the products that you carry? So this is the new person that you're going to need to be marketing to, right? This is going to be that person that you're going to try to bring under your umbrella. So you might have to have some promotional stuff in order for them to come in. And then the next client is your aspirational client. This is the one you'd like to have, maybe because they're an influencer, and maybe because they represent what you'd like your product to be. So this is the looking forward for the future. So you have your returning client, you have your best client, you have your your lookalike customer, and now you want to make sure you're incorporating in that your aspirational customer, someone that can really help you grow your business and take your business to the next level. So, have you discovered recently any new insights about your customers, especially during this transitional period where you've had to go from live to remote, and now you're looking at going hybrid? Have you guys learned anything about the clients that you do have? And you can put that in the chat. Now, next, let's talk about, I've had a steady stream of electrical home improvement. Well, home improvement was probably the one area, or one of the many of the areas, but everybody right now is looking, because they've been sitting at home for a whole 18 months, and they have seen everything that wasn't working, that wasn't comfortable, that didn't fit with them. And so people have been changing households. They had to adjust some things because of their working remotely, and the whole entire family is working online. So this is a real good time, Tyrone, because I don't believe, I mean, we're still going to be operating remotely for a while. I don't plan on going back out to live for a good minute, at least until past the fall, when I make sure all the peaks are done. So yeah, you really truly want to be able to reach out to these new marketplaces, and everybody's been home, so they see all the blemishes that they would love to have their houses look like. And so I would be outreaching. I would also be, one of the things that I've noticed about the home improvement, they're not you, right? So maybe you should be focusing your marketing or your outreach to helping them make better decisions and new improvements that they may not have thought about. So maybe some new lighting, or some new something that is not in their preview but is in yours. That's your specialty. Jamaica, Tyrone, online tool is a great marketing tool. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's what I was talking about, Jamaica. They can do live Facebook pages, live Facebook presentations on new lighting and all that kind of stuff. And that'll bring in a new client. Everybody's stuck in front of their computers, so they're looking for new ideas. So now the next area is, so one of the reasons you want to create this segmentation of your client is, once you've identified a different segment, you can now tailor your communications directly to those individuals. You can create reward systems for loyalty, and you can identify new audiences. And this is really important. And this is, I call this time the reset time. This is the time where we can change how we do business, just mainly because everybody had to reset, right? Nothing, anyway, the way we did business in 2019 is no longer the way we're going to do business. So everyone is up for the change. They had to make some changes in their lives as well. So we kind of talk about so now let's talk about your minimizing the amount of money going out of your business, right? So this is a good time to, we kind of talked about pricing, and we talked about collecting on there. We talked about that. So let's talk about cash out. So this is a real good time to go back through your, how much money is going out of your business, and look and make sure that the monies that are going out is really something you need. One of the things that I have found out about my business is, especially doing online stuff, you set up with these companies, and it looks $9.99 here, $10.99 here. It doesn't seem like a lot. But then all of a sudden it adds up. And so, but have you used all those products? I have a client that once I taught her how to do her own accounting and do her books every month, she was able to slice and cut and go lean, and she was able to pay off all of her debt. she had brought on 3 more employees based upon eliminating all that excess and revisiting whether she needed to pay for these services or needed to pay to even have these services. Was she even using these services, or was she just paying for them? And now we're working on her. She increased her revenue about 45% in the process of that. So now she had more cash to work with, not a revenue. She increased the flow of her cash by about 45%. And now we're working on her setting up for her retirement. She's an entrepreneur. And after we set that up and get that in place, now we're then working on her buying income property to create a different revenue, additional revenue stream. So knowing where and when your cash goes out helps you to resize your spending and make sure that you are putting your money in places that is really, really working for you. So you want to go back and you want to talk to your vendors. For those of you that have vendors, maybe you can, yes, a duplex or better. Maybe you can negotiate new favorable terms. Maybe your vendor, the one vendor you're being using, maybe they've now increased their prices. Maybe you need to look at multiple options and see if you can get those same services or products at a cheaper cost. You want to make sure that you're understanding that the more money that's going out, the more money that's coming out of your business. And for some of you, maybe it's time, and I know in Los Angeles, this is a tough one, but renting versus owning. So if you are renting a property, that's really, you're not getting any interest, you're not getting any equity. So maybe if you've been in the same building for 20, 30, 40 years, maybe it's time to have a conversation with the landlord of your building, and maybe they're ready to retire or they're ready to sell their property. So that would be a way of changing the process, because now you're owning the building and maybe you can lease out some of the space that you have, and now you can generate another revenue stream. So analyzing your vendor relationships and making sure you're getting the best bang for your dollar, and that if you can cut back and go a little leaner. And now we're online. Maybe this is you've already done without, so maybe this is a really good time to really go back and see if these are products and services that you really need. And in the workbook if you guys have copied that workbook, now let me let you guys know, if you click those 3 dots next to file, you can actually copy this chat down to your computer, and then you will have those resources there. But in the workbook on page 17 of the book, you can see how you analyze your vendor relationship. So you're going to do very much the same thing that you did when you did your competitive work analysis. You're going to do that with your vendors. So putting them in the system, making sure that this is this vendor works for you. Okay, we have to make sure. Brian or Mike, or is there a way we can make sure everyone gets the materials afterwards?
Certainly, everyone will receive a copy of the recording after the presentation.
All right.
In the workbook, yeah, in the material.
And the workbook as well, Jamaica?
Yep.
All righty, thank you. So there you go, guys. So you want to be able to really it's like almost going back and doing your business plan all over again, right? But it's because our businesses have evolved. Even forget the pandemic, our businesses evolve every year. We are doing something different. And I hope you're doing something different and not staying stagnant in the way you started your business as the way you're running your business now. So you want to be able to go look at. So I'm going to look right here. If you look at Grandma's Place, which is a restaurant, she's a small takeout restaurant that used a lot of containers, utensils, and napkins. And she found out she could get a better price by placing a monthly order. So you could do that, but you also can look for other vendors, right, that have better prices. Or maybe if you are buying on a bigger volume, you get a smaller price point. So really analyzing and seeing what works for you. And I think nowadays when I order off of when I order off of um, uh, any of the Grub Hubs or any, they ask me, do I want a utensils? And I'm at home. I don't necessarily need their utensils, right? So maybe give it an option. Now, before when you bought takeout, you weren't at home, so you could you could do that. So maybe as the business owner, you give them that choice, because if you're at home, you can use your own silverware. You don't have to use the plasticware, which is costing me money, and is not money, is not creating any revenue. It's just what I give out as a courtesy and customer service, which is important, but giving them an option to say yay or nay. So if not, they're just collecting the silver, their utensils at home. So just knowing that. And also making sure that the staff member, if you have payroll, now this is something that everyone should be looking at and doing their analysis, because payroll represents, at least in some cases, between 60, I'm gonna back it up, about 55 to 70% of your total business expenditures, right? So you want to make sure that your team, that you put together a balanced and efficient team, right? So you want to make sure everyone knows what they're doing and everyone is helping the business to grow, right? With that being as large of a percentage as it is, you want to make sure that it's helping the business move forward, and it's just not money that you're putting out. And that's a tough one, right? Because I've worked for companies where they had a large payroll, and every year we had to go back and analyze the payroll. And then when the revenues was changing, and or customers, you were losing customers and clients, the first place you have to go to is your payroll, because that is a fixed cost. And the only way to reduce that payroll is to reduce the number of people you have working for you. So you want to make sure that all your money is not going out of the door, and the team is not a high performing team that is really helping to grow the business. So and in the event, and it's tough, in the event, are they doing essential tasks, or maybe they're only doing one task, but maybe you can get a better bang for your dollar is to incorporate some new training for that individual, and they're doing multiple jobs as well. Or maybe you have to cut back and do some outsourcing while you're trying to increase your revenue. And are there gaps that a contractor can fill? But remember, in Los Angeles, there's this new thing called the AB5. And so contracting may not be your option in this day and age, unless you make sure that is well defined on what the needs are, because that's a little bit that could be a little sticky for you and costly. And then seasonal staffing. Maybe there's times where you have these peak seasons and you can bring in staff for that time frame, but after that, then those individuals, you furlough them, and then you bring them back in when you need them. So again, if that's 70% of your outflow, you want to make sure that that you're maximizing that, and that it's working for the business, not working against the business. And again, as I talked about real estate, do you need all the space that you have? Maybe can you downsize, especially now that you may be creating a hybrid type of workspace. So if you had a huge a building, maybe you want to see if you can downsize to something smaller, and which would then reduce the rent, and or if you own it, maybe you can lease out some space or create a co-working space. A lot of people may want that now. That is not going to be, they're going to be in the office 24/7 like they used to. Maybe you could do that. And of course, you have to make sure it's safe based upon the time that we're in. And then maybe to renegotiate the lease. There's going to be some really interesting things that are going to be happening post-COVID, especially after rent moratoriums have been changed. So it's definitely a time to have those conversations with your landlord if you're renting. Next is inventory. Inventory is cash. It's just cash sitting on a shelf. So if you have inventory and it's overstocked, you've spent too much in producing that inventory and you are not moving it out, then you are losing money. And that money is just gaining dust on the shelf. So you want to make sure that everything that's in your shop that is for sale is being sold, and making sure that you just don't have stock sitting on the shelf collecting that dust. I had a client, they were having money problems, and when I went into their brick and mortar, they had so much inventory, stuff was falling off the shelves, and I was like, why are you not selling this stuff? And he's like, and then during this time, this was on Crenshaw, and it was in the beginning of the Metro project, which was a crisis for those businesses on Crenshaw at the time. And he was saying, well, they can't get to me. So I was like, well, are you selling online? No. Why not? I don't have a website. Well, you could have been pushing this inventory out the door by pushing it out on a website and changing from a brick and mortar to an e-commerce type of store. And then the other thing is, right at the time he was doing this, Kaiser was just coming to the community. It's like, why are you not going out and making contractual agreements with the nursing homes and retirement facilities? Because all of his products with that type of product, and the hospital right there, become a vendor for that hospital. So in order to get that inventory off the shelf. Really, really important. So inventory ties up your cash, and it's important that you understand you have to have a balance. Okay. And next, marketing. This is a pet peeve for me because people feel they have incredible products and services, but they don't think they need to market, or they don't want to spend the money that it takes to market their businesses. And they feel their business is so fantastic that everybody's just going to come because. No, if people don't know you exist, they're not going to come. Trust me, they're not going to come. They have to know you're out there. So you have to have marketing. Marketing should be 15% of the minimum, 15% of your gross receipts, right? So, and in this day and age, you don't have to spend a lot of money for marketing, because if you're using your social media appropriately, then a lot of that is not going to cost you any money. And if you are purchasing ads on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, you're paying pennies on the dollar, but you can reach massive amount of people. So really incorporate a marketing budget. And if you can't do it, then go to some of the outsources. You can go to Upworks. You can hire people to help you do your marketing. You can go to Fiverr to help them create your graphic material for you. And it doesn't cost you a whole lot of money. So you have to look at it. Marketing is there to bring money to you, so that you can increase the revenue in your business. But if no one knows you're there, then people are going to forget that you exist. One of the best marketing tools that I did for my business was creating my podcast, because now people see me every single week. And I have 3 podcasts now because they see me. They see me on Monday, they see me on Thursday, and they see me on Friday. There's no way they're going to forget me. And so I want you guys to be unforgettable. So which means use your resources. So you can create a live Facebook page, a live Facebook performance. You can create a webinar or a webcast on Zoom. Really simple, doesn't cost you a lot of money. You might have to go out and get some training on how to make it happen. You can create a podcast. If you're a subject matter expert in your field, you need to be making sure everybody knows that you're a subject matter expert. It doesn't cost you anything. I've gotten my one podcast, I had an idea 1 week, and the next week I had it up. I did a Zoom and it was already up. And it has grown. I've grown it to over 700 people within a year. And I just make sure you have good content that people are learning from, that people can utilize. They can walk away from that marketing source, because that's what it is, and they can actually implement it in their businesses. So really stop to think about that. Also, jazz up your business. So if you have a product, do some new packaging, create a buzz, and increase the awareness that you are existing. One of the things that happened, my podcast has been on the air for the last 5 years. We're going in the 5th year in July. And so at the beginning of the pandemic in March, we were in a studio. And so because everything shut down, that shut down as well. And I told my business partner, my co-host, in July, it's like, okay, that's enough. People don't know we're existing. So I'm going to find a way that we can stream online. And that's what I did. I found a product that we can stream online. We jumped right back in there, and we've been rolling ever since. So just look at new ways to market your business. Don't be afraid of marketing. Marketing is what brings the people in the door. And if they're coming in the door, then they're bringing in money with them in that door. Okay. And it takes time to cultivate a new customer or a new client. But if you sight unseen, you won't have a customer at all. But however, if they see you, probably it takes about 14 times for people to register that they want to do business with you, but they're doing business with you because they want you. It's not that they can't go somewhere else and get that product. We can order anything we want from Amazon, but sometimes I want to be able to support a person because I like the person. I want to support their business because as a Black person, I truly want to support another Black owned business to make sure that they're going to be thriving post-pandemic and forever. And so in order for me to do that, I have to be intentional about that. So we want to do that. So the next area, because we're getting close on our time, the next area is making your cash work for you. So thinking about what we've talked about, how will you improve your cash flow? Can anyone, based upon what we just talked about, are there anything in those 4 ways to maximize your cash? Are you guys thinking that you can incorporate in your business? So you guys can put that in the chat while I take a sip of water. And some of you may already have done that. So the 4 ways was, excuse me, let's go back. So cash is improving your receivables. Okay. Making sure you're invoicing in a timely manner. All right. Because sometimes we don't do that. And then following up on our invoices. So making sure you're collecting all your sales, making sure that your pricing is good for you and your customers. basically changing some of our habits, right? And being more intentional about our business. So that's money coming in, developing new revenue streams, identifying some new revenue streams that could increase revenue. So right here, Dr. Jessica said she purchased the building and she's using social media to market their business. Um, so now she's acquiring equity in the building that she's purchasing, right? So that's an increase. And if she actually has some more space, she could rent it out. I mean, there's just, multiple ways. She could rent out the conference space and people could rent that out on an hourly basis. And that will be another way to generate the business. Bringing in another product line because of the fact that you've been able to identify some new business opportunities throughout this pandemic. So that's a way. Okay. So that's maximizing our cash coming in. So for our cash going out, we want to make sure that we are looking at our vendor relationships, right? Do we need to go back and renegotiate? Do we need to have multiple vendors in place? Okay. Analyzing our vendor relationships to make sure that they're still working for us, making sure they're delivering whatever you're ordering from them on time, making sure that the quality is there for you. Because if the quality is not there and you want to increase your pricing, then that diminishes your value proposition. So making sure that you're doing that. And that's another thing on the cash end, making sure you understand what is your value proposition. What is the sizzle sauce about your business? What makes it razzle and dazzle and jump off the shelves, right? So maybe you have to think about that, right? Really going back and looking at your business model and seeing, are you providing value for the product that you're selling? Okay. Identifying new customers and making sure you are creating a segmentation, making sure that you're addressing your best customer, you know who they are, making sure you're a sustainable customer, and making sure you're being able to identify some new customers. Okay. And then finally, making sure that you don't have inventory just sitting on your shelf and that's not being sold, and making sure you're revisiting how much you're paying for your raw materials in order to create your product, and making sure you have a marketing plan and to bring in more customers. Does that help, Limi? So it's a lot, but once you get a system in place, you're welcome. You can, and this is pandemic or no pandemic. This is what one needs to be doing when one has created one's business, right? We want to make sure that all the components to operating a business is working together and is working for the benefit of making my business work, right? So being open to new ideas, being open to partnerships. Partnerships could bring in some new business. It could bring in new customers. It could bring in, it could shore up a weakness that your business has, but making sure in that partnership that you do your due diligence to make sure that it works for you. I do a lot of partnership work, and each one brings new value to my business. So, and then we help each other with our businesses because now we have a referral partner that we can refer to our clients as well. And then when they get an opportunity, if there's another opportunity there for me, then they always make that, they make that introduction. And so I've gotten a lot of business as a result of my partners. So that's another way to create new opportunities for yourself. So recognizing how your money moves through your business is probably never been more important today than it was in 2019. I think a lot of us may have taken our businesses for granted in 2019, but we saw something that we never would have thought in our lifetime could have actually happened, and it did happen, and it happened because um, we weren't really taking notice of all of the components of our business unless you just started your business 2 years ago and you're really out there working to make that happen. But if we've been in business, we could get a little lackadaisical if we've been in business for 4 to 5 years or more, and we had a consistent amount of revenue coming in, and then all of a sudden that revenue shut down. I remember in 2007 when we had our the real estate crash. Um, my business was just so simple and easy. It was all word of mouth. I never advertised. I never did anything. My partners would go out there. It's like, oh yeah, you need Crystal. She can do this for you. She can do this for you. So it just flowed. And but my market segment was real estate agents, mortgage bankers, and churches. So what do you guys think happened to my business in 2007? I have an idea. So my business in 2000, I lost 65% of my clients in 2007. 2000, actually it took to about 2009, right after Obama was in office. When I came back from the inauguration, that was it. My business had almost crashed. I had to then go back and look at all of my other skills that I had. I had to restructure, and I had to make sure after and from that time on, I had a variety of customers, and I found some that were not necessarily touched by the recessions. And I made sure I balanced my customer base and out. And then I started doing more contract work for organizations that they were going to be in business regardless. And so I took it away from so many individual transactional businesses to more contract work, and now it's more stable. So during the pandemic, it really, I didn't have in fact, it went up. I probably have not worked as hard uh, in 20 as my whole entire 30 years I've been in business. So and that's what you want to do. You want to create a environment that your business thrives. And yeah, you might have to make some adjustments, and yeah, we're going to have some highs and some lows, but you want to make sure that you are positioning yourself. And Jamaica just put in some here in the chat. Here's the other thing is you want to make sure that you don't let your skill sets become stale. You want to make sure that you're hiring people or going to workshops and seminars that is going to help you to grow. So the Urban League is an excellent place to go because they have workshops for you to help you grow your business. Even those of us that are coaches, every 2 years I'll go and I will invest in my business and invest in myself by taking the time, and sometimes there's actually a physical investment that I'll go learn some new talents and some new skills. I'm always looking for new tools, and so I think these tools that Chase has is excellent. I'm going to actually refer the cash flow analysis for my clients to use, even the vendor analysis and the competitive analysis. I think these are excellent tools. So I'm always looking for new tools to make my business better and to be able to offer more value to my business. So I'm going to utilize those. I hope you guys are going to utilize those. I did promise, I think it was Shannon or Dr. Jessica. So There's QuickBooks to do your books, which yes, there is a cost, a monthly cost for utilizing QuickBooks, but there's another product that doesn't cost you a dime. You might have to invest in learning how to use it. But other than that, it's called a Wave accounting app. It is absolutely free, 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 free. They don't charge you anything in order to utilize this particular product, and mainly because they're in the insurance business, and I guess they got tired of asking people for personal financial statements, and they couldn't get them, so they provided a product. It's an excellent product. Especially if you're a new business or you're a business without a lot of inventory. It is very intuitive. It's very easy to use. It creates income statements. It creates balance sheets. It creates cash flow statements. It does everything you need to do. We can speak, Jessica, if you QuickBooks is for you. Each one of these products it has a different, depends. It depends on what your business does, if your business has inventory, whether or not. So if you're not using anything, Wave you can actually use for your business. But if you're using QuickBooks and you're not using it properly, then we need to make sure that's done as well. You need to have an accounting software that will help keep your money, keep you on tap and on track with how much money is coming into your business and how much money is going out. Spreadsheets are great, but spreadsheets is not an accounting software. So just FYI. So are there any other questions? Is there any questions? Anyone want to ask any thing? How long are we going, Jamaica?
Mike,
I can't hear you.
I was asking Mike how long we're going.
Okay.
We can go as long as people want to listen, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, it was scheduled for an hour, but we're good.
Okay, we have another hour?
No. It was scheduled for an hour.
Oh, okay.
We're at 2 right now. So.
Okay. So, well, wow, that was a lot of slides for an hour.
Why don't we put a pin in it here?
Okay.
And so we can let folks go. I know this was a great conversation. I have a ton of questions myself. And so I wanted to encourage folks who do have further questions. Ms. Crystal Mitchell is one of our business counselors at the Los Angeles Urban League. And so if you are interested in speaking with her or other equally competent counselors, please give us a call or register on our website. I left the link in the chat. It's a registration link. If you register on that site, you automatically will get set up with your first business consulting appointment with Crystal or someone equally as capable. And you can ask her a ton of questions. And if you have questions like, should I use Wave or should I use QuickBooks and things like that, that's a perfect conversation to have with a business counselor. He can talk to you about some of the options and kind of where you are and where your business are. You can help you make some of those decisions for paid and free resources and all those good things like that. I dropped some information in the chat, but please don't worry. We're going to share all this information, the slides, the recording of the webinar, and the materials with everyone who registered and attended. So with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Crystal, as always. I learned every time I hear you speak. Today was no exception. Thank you for, kind of explaining all of these complex materials in a way that I could understand. So I really appreciate that and giving us a lot to think about in terms of helping our businesses. Folks, the Los Angeles Urban League has a ton of resources for Black entrepreneurs and Black business owners. Please do not miss out on the resources that we have for you. Use that link, register, become a part of our network if you're not already. Invite other folks to do so. We're here for you. Call us anytime if you need anything. And we look forward to having you back for our next in the series. We're gonna have 3 more AD Advancing Black Entrepreneur Series from Chase, where we're gonna talk about all sorts of things for small businesses for the rest of the year. You'll be invited to that, and I hope you all can participate. They come with a lot more tools and workbooks and worksheets and all that great stuff. And so look out for those, and have a good night, and we'll see everybody soon.
All righty. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Have a good one. Be safe out there.